What's up? I'm Jenny Medrano, and this is my Liberation Diary. In this video, I'm going to be processing the topic of career, especially liberation in career and the pressure of productivity. So I'm just jumping right in because I already introed what this is about in my other videos. I have been thinking a lot about working smarter, not harder. For the longest time, I think it might just be a Taurus or Earth sign thing. But especially as I started my own business in June of 2021. And I'm realizing to be an entrepreneur requires to wear so many hats. And when you own your own business, if you own your own business, there's always something more that you could be doing. There's always 20 things more that you can be doing. There's not really a defined job description until you create a business or organization where there is one and there's other teammates. But for a while, it might be like my experience where you're the social media manager, you're writing the content captions, you're thinking about the ideas for all the platforms, you're trying to repurpose. The list goes on. And I am tired. And this is on my mind, especially because I've actually had a productive week and I've gotten a lot done. I've got an event out there that I've been wanting to do. I'm creating new content. I'm creating all sorts of things and meeting with people in the midst of it, meeting with coaching clients. And I just feel really, really tired today. And it's a known pattern in my life, especially as I'm a projector in human design. If you don't know about human design, it tells you, based on your birth time, a lot more about your energy and kind of like your design in terms of the collective, and a little bit of your secret sauce, as I like to call it, that you have to give. So for me, being a projector, it's 20% of the population, and the majority of the population, people are generators who have a bunch of energy, and they basically like can do almost all day long, and then that helps them sleep at night because they've used up all their storages of energy. My nephew's a generator. He just zooms. I don't know how he just walks and plays and runs and talks and nonstop. He's also a toddler, so there's that. But there's a difference in toddlers. And now that I know about human design, I'm like, wow, I must have just been this projector toddler that's like, oh, I was asking questions all the time. That's the thing. Because projectors are meant to guide. We're meant to create the blueprint, kind of be these visionaries and leaders, but we don't have the energy to produce a lot. So I think that connects to me wanting to ask so many questions as a kid because I wanted to learn and I wanted to know, to be able to share, to guide. So that's one fact that I've learned about myself, or one assessment that has helped me understand that I need to restructure my workflow, my work day, my work week, my work schedule, if I'm going to be sustainable and not burn out. So I've tried all sorts of things, and I've fluctuated on the spectrum of not working enough at all and just being like, I could just breeze through this. No. And then working way too much and basically like taking the 9-to-5 conditioning from my last job to my business and applying it. And none of that worked. So I've just tried all different sorts of combinations. What I'm finding now is that I need to take into account my menstrual cycle, as well as the day of the week, as well as the moon cycles and astrology, because I care a lot about that and I think a lot about that. So I think in an ideal world, as I was thinking about this week, I would have maybe probably 2 in the month. I might even only get 1 huge social media content batching days where I get to feel like a star, put myself in a studio. Right now it's just going to be this studio, which is my room. Later on, with the right budget, it could be an actual studio type thing with a videographer, and batch out all this content, some of which can be reused, repurposed for Instagram, YouTube, some of which is TikTok specific, some of which is something else, and that day or days probably should be a Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm finding, because I have the most energy those days. And moon-wise, astrology-wise, my friend and healer Ananda that I know, she told me about Tuesdays being one of the most productive days astrologically. And then menstrual cycle related, I feel like I looked it up too, and for some people you get a burst of energy right before your period. I think that that's what's happening for me. And then sometimes after. So those kind of windows would be my most ideal times. But then that leaves the question, what do I focus my work on during those weeks where it feels harder to get up? It feels harder to do anything, and my hormone levels are weird and I feel depressed or I feel less energy. I'm thinking those would be better actually with more client calls and coaching calls, because meeting with people and guiding people brings me some energy and it makes me feel good, makes me feel fulfilled. So I'm sharing my process with you, and I wonder if you relate. And if you're an entrepreneur, if you are working a 9-to-5 or in a full-time job, then it might be more so of how can you get better at work boundaries, really solidify what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. If you have a boss, how do you hold your boss or supervisor to your job description and what you're supposed to do and not supposed to do, so that during your 40-hour work week, you're not overdoing it. And then there leaves, how do you take your time on some of your projects and tasks? Not too much where you're just like extending it or like taking forever to write one email, right? But figuring out for yourself, maybe Tuesdays are your most productive day too, because of astrology. Then how can you make sure you block off time to do some of your most, like, I want to say brain heavy, but that doesn't make sense. I can't think today. Your most, the tasks that require most of your brain power. How can you set those up on that day? And how might you set up your menial tasks on Mondays, or the least amount of worker calls on Fridays, if you have that flexibility? That's one thing that I've been thinking about in terms of balance. Back to the pressure of productivity. When it comes to collective liberation, I think this 40-hour work week is just, it was never meant to be like that. I don't think we were ever meant to require work labor for survival. Oh, I think my nephew's crying. But I do think that we are meant to give and serve in a way, serve the collective in a way, and that is part of our fulfillment when we're able to figure out our secret sauce or our superpowers, our skills, and give back to our communities. So I think in an ideal world, we would start to evolve. And my goal is to figure out a way to have a 20-hour work week, and create a business or company that runs off of that as full time. I want to get so productive and efficient. Oh, there goes my conditioning. Not just that. I want to work smarter, not harder. I want us to be so focused, so zoned in to our superpowers. That's a better way to describe it. That we're able to come to work and work a maximum of 20 hours doing what we do best. And that being just the right amount of work to make the dream team work. And every person in the dream team would do that with their own lane. So that's another realization that I'm having, is how much I do need a team eventually. And I would love to have teammates who have organization systems skills, teammates that love creating social media content and organizing it and strategy and all that, teammates that love graphic design, teammates that love coordination and communication with clients. None of those are my superpowers or secret sauce, and yet I have to do all of them, and it gets really overwhelming. So in the future, I think that that's part of it. We're not meant to work alone. The solopreneur model is very much generator based, but I think even generators burn out when they're running their own business because of how difficult it is to do all these things, have all these hats. So that's one thing I've been thinking about, the collective liberation wise, and also what would it look like? This is also one of my questions. What would it look like to actually make that happen? What would be some of the unintended consequences if we switch the idea that a full-time work week is 40 hours to 20 hours? And would companies be okay with not focusing so much on growth and overproductivity? Would they be okay with just sustained production and lowering that dramatically for the sake of our earth? Would some die? What would they do? Can we spend our dollars differently and move our dollars to those people who are adapting this workplace? And also, what would people have to be paid to survive? Like, I think they would just have to have the full-time salary that is probably like 100K in this day and age, that would really provide a thriving lifestyle, where it's like not super crazy extravagant, but also with the costs as they are, that's what it would take for a lot of us to afford homes and healthy diets and be able to have good health care and taking good care of our kids and taking good care of our parents and all the things. So is that possible? Like, could you have a team of 6 all working 20 hours a week, all in their superpower lanes, all making 100K, because none of this like hierarchy thing, unless we come up with a new hierarchy where it is amount of time and experience that switches salaries by a little, but like these 300% increases or like differences are fucking ridiculous, and that needs to change. That kind of greed and over the top exuberant wealth is part of our downfall, has been. So if we're able to change all those things, what would that look like? That was a really long, windy way of casting a vision and sharing some of my thoughts, what I've been wrestling with. To end, I want to leave you with 4 questions for you to consider. Number 1, do I feel a pressure to produce more in my job? Why or why not? It sounds simple, but it could be deep in terms of figuring out like the impetus and the conditioning that you have that's creating pressure. 2, what would my ideal workflow be like throughout the week and throughout the month? You heard how I'd want to set mine up. How would you want to set yours up? 3, what would my dream team need? What superpowers would my 3 other teammates need to have? And 4, what would it take for our collective to shift from a 40-hour work week to a 20-hour work week? I'm super interested in that one. And if you've thought about this kind of a shift, of course, evolving into true liberation, I do think that we would switch out of this super capitalist mindset and be able to be more in an indigenous tribal way of living, where we exchange goods and services and where we are able to show up in our skills and our secret sauce and provide that, and then we all get our needs met. But I think that's going to take hundreds of years. And so how do we move the needle slowly but surely? That's my perspective on it. So would love to hear your thoughts, and I hope to talk with you again next week.